This is Optimal Living Daily, Untrack, letting go of the stress of measuring by Babauta of ZenHabits.net. And I'm Justin Malik, your personal narrator, reading to you every single day of the year to give us both a bit more inspiration, motivation, and happiness in our days. And with that, let's get right to it as we optimize your life. Untrack, letting go of the stress of measuring by Babauta of ZenHabits.net. There are a few old management adages that seem to run like a current through our society, powering our work and personal lives. You can't manage what you don't measure, and you are what you measure, and you get what you measure. And I've fallen for it myself. At various times, I've tracked workouts, miles run, everything I've eaten, every single work task I complete, progress towards goals, my weight, my body fat percentage, how many days I've done a habit in a month, words written each day, books I've read, expenses, earnings, debt, website visitors, ad clicks, tweets, followers, and on and on. Sometimes I've tracked a few of these at the same time. Now I'm not alone. There are people who track the most minute details of their lives, from heartbeats to steps walked to hours slept and quality of the sleep to emails sent. As a society, we're tracking and measuring more than ever before. What's the theory here? And is it true? And is it necessary? The theory behind measuring is that unless you measure something, you don't know if it's getting better or worse. You can't manage for improvement if you don't measure to see what is getting better and what isn't. And to some extent, this is true. If you measure how many hours you spent writing, it's very possible that that number will increase simply because you're measuring it, more aware of it, more focused on it, and motivated for that number to increase. If you measure miles run, that number will likely improve until you get injured or burnt out. But how do you measure the hills you ran during those miles, or the spurts of speed you occasionally threw in, or the enjoyment of the view? How do you measure the great conversations you had with your wife as you did those runs? How do you track the ideas you had on the run, the health benefit of the runs, and the new places you explored? You could try to track all of these things, but then you'd be tracking 20 things instead of just miles run. Work is the same way. You can measure 1 or 10 metrics for productivity, but does it measure the relationships you've built with your readers or customers, or the enjoyment you've gotten doing the work, or the things you've learned by making mistakes, or the pure joy you've gotten in making someone's life better? Go ahead and try to measure that. When you track a metric such as hours or dollars or miles, you're saying that's more important than all the things that can't be measured. You put that in the forefront of your head as the thing that must be improved at the cost of all else. What about relationships and joy? Are those less important? Then there are other problems with tracking and measuring everything. Number one, it takes time to measure and track. That's valuable time you could have spent doing or living. Number two, it creates a mindset that we must always improve, always measure, always manage things, always strive for better, better, better. What about learning to be happy with yourself? What about focusing on joy and compassion and people you love? When does the improving stop? Are we ever satisfied? Is that the point of living, to improve endlessly, to always make things better and never be happy with where we are? Number three, it's stressful to measure and track a lot of things, and it's disappointing if those numbers don't go up or don't go up as much as we'd hoped. Number four, we have to choose what to measure, and how do we know we're choosing the right thing? Why is that thing the only thing that matters? It's a narrowing way of looking at life. And number five, it doesn't improve happiness. It doesn't make us content. It doesn't keep us in the moment. I could go on and on. Measurement and tracking are tools, and there's nothing wrong with using them. I've obviously used them many times and still recommend them to most people. I just think we should consider whether there are alternatives and question our dogma and experiment to see what works best for us. Untrack, another way to work and live. So how do you work and live if you're not tracking and measuring? Well, my wife Eva asked me this today when we were on our run. She really wants to keep track of her runs, miles and time and pace, so she can be motivated to improve and keep doing it. I said it's not necessary. Let's take the example of a mother or father. Do we measure all the activities we do as parents so we are motivated to improve and keep doing it? Do we measure hugs given, time spent reading to kids, time spent preparing meals for them, fixing their boo-boos, taking them to the playground or park, playing catch with them, helping them shower or get dressed, teaching them a new skill, snuggling or lazing around together, and so on? No, we just do all of that and more. Why? How is it possible to do all of that without the motivation of tracking? Well, it's simple. We do those things because we love them and we love our kids. We're also motivated to learn more about being parents, to see if there are better ways of doing things, not by the measuring and tracking, but because we love being parents and we want to be good parents. No tracking needed. And what about running? Can't we run for the joy of it? Aren't we motivated to do it because we love ourselves? And who cares if we run more miles or not? That's an arbitrary goal that really means nothing. Just run because it's super fun, for the enjoyment of nature and great views, for the simple but boundless pleasure of a conversation with someone you love. What about work? Are we going to all of a sudden stop doing anything because it's not measured? Well, I say no. I've been working for a little while now without tracking anything, and lo and behold, my work goes on. I do it because it gives me joy. I do it because I love all of you and would keep doing it without pay, and even if whatever numbers I decided to measure went down the tubes and into the netherworld. That's why we do things, not because we want numbers to get better. The numbers are meaningless, arbitrary, limiting, narrow, and without heart. Do for the love of doing, for the love of others. That's unmeasurable and profoundly life-changing. You just listened to the post titled Untrack, Letting Go of the Stress of Measuring by Leo Babauta of zenhabits.net. And I'll be right back with my commentary. Good taste is easy to spot, but hard to pin down. You know it when you see it. With your car, you want something sophisticated and daring, yet classic, approachable, but with an air of opulence. That's where the Range Rover Evoque comes in. The Range Rover Evoque is charisma in motion, art and craft in equal measure. Its exterior is a quietly bold expression of Range Rover DNA with a floating roof, continuous waistline, and three-dimensional grille that give it a captivating character. Inside, you'll find a calm, minimalist cabin anchored by a tactile gear shifter where clean lines, sumptuous materials, and advanced technology come together. Make a statement in the Range Rover Evoque. This elegant SUV elevates every drive, offering a new dimension of refinement and luxury. Whether you prefer a modern aesthetic or a warmer, authentic appearance, the Evoque's interior can be tailored to your taste. Ready to experience sophisticated design and premium materials in motion? Explore the Range Rover Evoque at LandRoverUSA.com. Thank you to Leo. This one reminds me of an article I narrated earlier this week talking about how you have to do what works for you because you're going to hear different ideas all the time, not just from this podcast, but from friends, family, coworkers, videos, books. It never ends. And this is yet another example where we've definitely heard something that it's a good thing to track our finances or exercise. And then here comes an author pushing back. So what's the answer? Well, I've been personally tracking every penny in and out of my life since 2010. It's a long time. And I've learned some interesting things in all that time. First, it morphs over time. So for instance, back in 2010, I had no clue how much I was spending. I didn't know if I was positive or negative every month. I wasn't consciously spending. Things were a bit more automatic, and I didn't realize how quickly it was all happening. My goal then was probably just to have more money than I did the month before. Years later, the awareness has become much more ingrained. I don't look at it every single month and check, am I positive or negative this month? I could have stopped tracking, but I actually enjoy it now because it actually serves a purpose. It makes tax time way easier. And for me, that's what it all comes down to, purpose. Are we tracking something because we think we should, and is it helping in some way? The problems he mentioned are fair and could be true for you. Maybe it doesn't bring happiness. Maybe it is stressful to track. Maybe it takes too much time. All good things to think about. For me, tracking my income and expenses for this long creates less stress long-term for me because I find it super easy now after doing it for so many years. It's like a second nature thing to me. So again, do what works best for you. I recommend trying to track things like finances. You can learn more about what I use to track money at oldpodcast.com/track. But listen to yourself and see if it's truly helping or not. And with that, thank you for being here. I've only been able to keep doing this with you coming back to listen. Have a great rest of your day. I'll be back tomorrow where your optimal life awaits.